Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Carter, and I'm a high school biology teacher and AP biology teacher at Clovis North High School. I put out a message on Twitter asking if people were interested in seeing my assessment design process, and I've decided to try to make this video for you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. Thinking about NGSS style assessments, I'm going to give you some resources that I use to start off with, and one of the most important ones is the CAST, for California anyway, item specifications. So what that document looks like, you can download it from California Cast, and I will provide that link in the bottom of the YouTube video here. And basically, it's a document. There's one for earth sciences, life sciences, and physical sciences at the high school level. They also have it broken out by each standard. So if you don't want the full, for life sciences, the full 130-page document, you can just find, for example, today I'm going to talk about an assessment we made for LS1-6. A couple things to note. I did not write this whole thing by myself, LS1-6. I had the help of my team at Clovis North. That's Jonathan Benson, Chris Long, Moral McDowell, and Wendy Salvador. I want to thank them very much for the help on this. Also, we have to really work together to make these kinds of things. So if you are solo working by yourself on your own team, I would strongly encourage you to build a network of other people you can run stuff by, because what we see in an assessment isn't necessarily what the kids see in an assessment. Anyways, I would start with this item specifications list. If you're navigating this document, I always hit Control F and I type in which standard I'm looking for. In this case, it's LS1-6. There's the list of the standards with where we can find them. And if I click on the second one here, it'll take me down to the item specs for 1-6. Take a second, pause the video, go ahead and read what the performance expectation is for that and the clarification statements. I'm going to keep going though to keep this video short. Here is the disciplinary core ideas. I would take a minute and pause the video to look through those as well. So a couple things first off that I see in this. I always print out the performance expectation along with the item specifications and the evidence statements, and I go through and I highlight certain things. The first question I ask is, what are kids doing? And so in this case, that would be the science and engineering practice. And what the kids are doing for this one is constructing and revising an explanation. And then what is the content knowledge they got to know? That's the DCI. Evidence for how carbon and hydrogen combine with other elements to form those macromolecules. So in this unit, we spent a lot of time talking about the macromolecules and the processes that develop those. And we had to design our free response questions and some of our multiple choice questions to kind of tackle those issues. So if we dive into the evidence statements here real quick, they need to look at a phenomena and they need to construct an explanation about that phenomena. They need to evaluate someone else's explanation. I don't know that we quite hit that with this explanation you're going to see today, but it is something that we're working towards. So they need to look at quantitative and qualitative explanations, apply scientific concepts. So this might be like content DCI's taught in class. Use models or representations. So that's a big one. I don't know if we're going to see that one today either, but we're working towards it as a group. Evaluate and revise a given explanation. So they have to look at somebody else's explanation and evaluate it and support and refute that explanation. We're pretty early in the year, so these higher level things, I don't know that we're going to do that in this particular assessment. All right, disciplinary core idea targets. They need to know there's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. They need to know how macromolecules are formed from sugars. They need to describe how those can be broken down and the other elements that can be used to build those. This word right here, recombination, in our talking with the kids, my group, we use the word rearrange. Next year, we're going to switch that out to recombination. And understand metabolic processes to break down and synthesize. Now, it's really important, life science major, I think metabolic processes, I think my third year of biochem and I start going down a huge old rabbit hole. But we have to really anchor ourselves into it's that concept. And what can really help us anchor into what is the concept they have to understand is those cross-cutting concepts. And this will, if we look at that a little bit more carefully, that'll help keep us from going too far. So changes in energy and matter in a system can be described as the flow. So that keyword there, that verb, is the flow verb. And I think that's what really we want the kids to focus on, is how that flows through. Not necessarily what is step A, what is step B, what is step C, which enzyme do I need. It's that flow part. Okay, so cool thing also about these item specifications, they give you some misconceptions that kids have, which are these two right here, and those can help us build out what's going on. They also describe possible phenomena. So if you're looking at making a good assessment, or you're looking for a phenomena to drive your units, these are great places to find those things. So what my group decided, we always start with phenomena. And so when you're building out one of these things, you always want to start with phenomena. So one of my primary resources to find phenomena, I use Wonder of Science by Paul Anderson. And this is his newer website, and a link should be provided, but we're going to be using Wonder of Science quite a bit today. So if you just type in, I'll just go back to the beginning, Wonder of Science. This will bring up in Google, and there's all sorts of different links here. This is the homepage. So resources that I find useful from this site, I love these graphic organizers for the SEPs. I try to use these a lot. He has one for constructing explanations. We'll just take a look at that real quick. And I like this one because it goes into cause and effect. There's also asking questions, and analyzing and interpreting data. So I try to build some assessments off of those. If you guys like this video, I'll show you some others that I've built. There's also some graphic organizers for the cross-cutting concepts, energy and matter flow. These are really good in class for whatever particular phenomenon you're looking at. Again, I love that these start with the phenomenon. Some other resources, if we come down here to assessment, you can go to some short performance assessments, and Paul's got these organized by each of those categories. And so this can be a good source to try to find some phenomena and try to get some ideas of how you might run this. When my group was going through this, we actually ran into this assessment here, which is basically based on the phenomenon that Americans anyway, are about 60 to 70% corn. That's our carbon source, is 60 to 70% corn. But the carbohydrates in this particular example, we eat about 78% carbohydrates. Or excuse me, 72% of the carbohydrates is a typical meal for the United States American. However, when we look at the body is only 1% carbohydrate. And so that phenomenon is trying to get the kids to think through having to explain that. So we actually started with that with my group, and we wrote this FRQ, which I'm going to bring up right here. And for our phenomenon for this particular FRQ is the keto diet. And so what we did was we went through and we gave the kids some background info on typical foods and that kind of stuff that they eat. And then the kids had to do a claims evidence reasoning on that. So there's a link to this down below in the YouTube video. You can bring that up. But I'm just going to ask you to pause the video for a second, take a second, and read through what's going on here. Again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to stop there for 5 minutes while everybody reads and catches up. But what we found as a group is we have to, instead of just saying, what's your claim, what's your evidence, what's your reasoning, what we found as a group is that we really have to give the kids sentence starters, especially at this point in the year. I work primarily with freshmen, and we kind of give them a little bit more of a fill in the blank. There's a twofold reason for this. One, by guiding the kids a little bit more, especially at this point in the year, they're able to narrow down exactly what it is we're looking for. And two, it makes these kinds of assessments a lot easier to grade. I know that's going to be a question that pops up right away. This particular assessment, I have about 110 biology students this year, and when I got all these back to sort these and kind of get an idea of who is mastery, who's advanced, who's basic, who's below basic. It took about an hour and a half to read through these and kind of rubric those out. Very important though, is we want to have a rubric on these. And so every time my team and I create one of these at our PLC meeting, one of the first things we do is we get together and we kind of come up with a initial rubric, like what are we looking for, that kind of thing. We're actually meeting tomorrow, and we're going to go through these and see if we need to adjust this rubric at all, to see if we need to add any of those things in. So this helps us as a team really kind of nail down those things. So from a free response perspective, the reason why we're designing this, I teach AP Bio, and the AP Bio FRQs are pretty intense. But AP is the next, chemistry is the next logical step after this for my bio students. But eventually, especially if they're taking bio as a freshman, I'd like to see a lot of them come back to take AP Bio. And so if you're not familiar with the way AP Bio writes out its free response questions, I'd highly encourage you to go check those out. I'm going to just show you that I've linked this in the folder that I've shared with everybody on this. And I have been writing AP FRQ style questions for my AP Bio class for about 3 years now. And I'm just going to bring up examples of some of their documents and kind of the flow that they use when they are going through. So again, we are not AP Bio with these assessments. However, the structure, you give the kids some evidence. You give the kids some background info. You give the kids a task. And so those are kind of down here on the next section. And so giving the kids a task and, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. We have to do the same thing in regular bio. We have to give those same tasks. Now we can scaffold it a lot more, and what we ask them to do, we can break down a lot more or not ask them to do as much, but we have to start getting the kids thinking this way. And NGSS, at least on some of the assessment items that I've seen, really kind of follows this AP style formatting where you've got part 1, part 2, part 3, we've got some sort of phenomenon or idea that's going on in them. And so one thing that's been really helpful for me to train me on how to write these FRQs for AP Bio, and then has transitioned into me helping me write assessments for regular bio, I use this cheat sheet. These are the words that I use when I'm trying to write my tasks for my AP Bio students to do. And I kind of, identify, justify, provide reasoning, propose, explain, describe, all of these things. I try to start my statements with those. And it really is beneficial to have this as a template to kind of jump from. And so I'm just wanted to share that with you guys as well, so that way you can get an idea of what's going on there. Finally, from a multiple choice perspective, we did go through and create, as a team, some of these for LS1-6. So one of the things when you look at the item specs for these questions, going through some of these things here. Let me find it real quick. Disciplinary ideas describes the sugar molecules it's composed of. Okay, explains the similarities and or differences between the molecules. So we want to help them see those things. Explains the molecules are synthesized from those molecules in the environment. And then a part that's missing from our explanation is really that revises an explanation to make it scientifically accurate. I think we could modify the FRQ that we made to do that. But again, I just wanted to share some of these resources for you guys. So our actual assessment that we wrote, looks like this. So we have each of the 4 macromolecules, and this is the multiple choice part of our exam. And we are really looking for what evidence are the kids bringing to the table to kind of differentiate between those different macromolecules. And so this really helped us in our instruction sequences as well. My team, what we're trying to do this year is try to get these assessments written before we teach our units. And so that way it can kind of adjust our teaching style for them. One of the things was the flow and the glucose rearrangement, etc. So this is our model of a plant cell, and they have to look at the model and kind of adjust and provide evidence for why certain things are flowing where on the plant cell. A formative assessment that we did partway through. This was an example of what me and my team wrote. Again, this is those macromolecules. What is it, and how do you know what it is? We're asking those questions. What's the evidence? So that way the kids have practice recognizing those things. This is a newer question. We're going to probably rewrite this one a little bit. The kids got kind of confused on these sugar molecules. But what we wanted them to do, and this is easily change outable, you could put, a triglyceride over here. You could put an nucleotide over here. But the idea is, hey, this is the end result. We want to get this polypeptide chain. The kids should know that that's made out of amino acids. What's the name of that monomer? If I wanted to be really sneaky, I could say, hey, which one of these up above? Go ahead and draw that down in here. But most of my kids were able to tell us, hey, if I add phosphate, I'm going to get a nucleotide. Hey, I get carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen from the sugar. In the soil, this one was a little bit tougher because we gave them a bunch of different ions to choose from, but they should have chose nitrogen. Some of my more advanced kids may have chose sulfur. Honors bio kids would definitely have to choose sulfur and nitrogen to kind of know the Chon's elements that get put into each macromolecule type thing. So I hope that some of the resources I shared were helpful. Again, everything has to start with phenomenon. Again, our group chose the corn phenomenon to kind of guide our unit. That's kind of our anchor standard anchor phenomenon, to guide our unit. And then we chose the keto diet to kind of write that FRQ from. And we have about 5 or 6 of these NGSS assessments and different phenomenon for each one. But to keep this video short, I just wanted to share this one. Links to resources and such are down below in the description of the video. And if you guys want me to make more videos like this, let me know. Thank you.